Ben's assistant replaced our photo with one of their own. I became the laughingstock of the entire wedding. Ben defended her, saying it was just a joke. I had given him 3 chances before. This was the last one. I chuckled and said, "All right, then no wedding." Ben and I met back in middle school. It's been 13 years now, and after 7 years of dating, he finally proposed. It was a romantic night with fireworks lighting up the sky, beautiful enough to leave anyone in awe. Ben knelt down beside a creek, the fireworks casting a soft glow on his handsome face. "Spring, can I be your family?" he asked. I was overwhelmed with tears. I had waited 7 long years to hear this, so I put great effort into our wedding, taking 2 weeks off to plan everything meticulously, designing my dream wedding. But on the wedding day, the big screen didn't play the video I spent 3 nights editing. Instead, it showed photo after photo of him with his assistant, Grace, skiing in snowy mountains, surfing ocean waves, bungee jumping off cliffs. They had conquered one extreme sport after another together. Anyone who saw it would say they made a perfect couple. I had no family and few friends. Most of the guests were Ben's relatives and friends. Someone in the crowd was the first to break the silence, asking, "Isn't that woman not the bride?" That one question was like a stone thrown into a pond, causing a stir of whispers and gossip. Curious, gossipy, and mocking gazes were all directed at me. In my wedding dress, I stood bewildered in front of the big screen, searching for Ben in the crowd. He was standing with Grace, looking surprised. When our eyes met, he instinctively shielded her. I froze. That moment, something inside me quietly withered away. I met Ben in the 7th grade. With his family background, he shouldn't have transferred to an ordinary school in a small town. Later, he told me it was because he got into a fight, and his grandmother, who refused to move to the city, was asked to keep an eye on him since he always listened to her. Before Ben transferred, I had no friends. My name was Spring, and my role was to babysit my little brother. In 7th grade, I made plans to hang out with new classmates one Saturday. My mom ran into us on the street and got furious, hitting me on the spot. She yelled at my friend, accusing her of leading me astray and not letting me stay home to look after my brother. My classmate was reduced to tears, and the next day, the story spread around school. After that, no one wanted to be friends with me. I sat alone in the corner of the classroom, like a moldy spot on the wall, avoided by everyone for fear of bad luck. But Ben swaggered over, tossed his backpack on my desk, and said, "I'm sitting here from now on. Nice to meet you, desk mate." He was fearless, acting like he could handle anything, no matter how big the sky fell. Before the high school entrance exams, I was miserable, knowing these were my final days at school. My parents had already planned to send me to work at a friend's shop to save money for my brother's house and wedding. Ben thought I was just stressed about the exams and tried every way to cheer me up. "Hey, you're the top student in the class. What's there to be anxious about?" he said. One day, I couldn't hold back and told him I wouldn't be able to continue studying. Ben was silent for a long time, then patted my head and grinned. "With me here, I'll make sure you keep studying." He begged his dad, promising to focus on his studies in exchange for my education freedom. The price? $70,000 paid to my parents. When I got my acceptance letter, I sincerely told him, "No matter what wrong you do in the future, I will forgive you." Ben brushed it off. "What nonsense are you talking about? I treat you so well." He went back to the city for high school, but it was right next to mine. He visited me constantly. His friends often teased us, making me blush and stammer, unsure of what to say. One time, as he was walking me back to the dorm, he suddenly asked, "What do you think about what they said?" I didn't understand at first. "What do you mean?" He got flustered, scratching his head like a nervous kid. "I'm so good to you. What do you think it means?" I shyly mumbled, "I'm only good to you, too." "What?" I felt embarrassed and quickened my pace. "Let's talk about it after graduation." Ben caught up, laughing joyfully. "You said it. You can't be good to anyone else." After the college entrance exams, we naturally started dating. Even though he went abroad for his studies, he flew back to see me whenever he could. In 4 years, he saved up a thick stack of plane tickets. My college roommates used to say that we made them believe in love. After graduation, Ben returned to the US, and we dated like any normal couple. For 3 years, I basked in happiness. Until Grace appeared. Grace was Ben's newly hired assistant. The first time I saw her was one night when Ben came back from a business event. A bit tipsy, leaning on her for support. Grace was beautiful, with a doll-like face and big eyes. Friendly and charming. She smiled at me and said, "Hello, Miss Spring." Mr. Ben had a bit too much to drink, so I brought him home. Ben hadn't drunk this much in a long time. I was filled with worry and quickly reached out to support him. But with his eyes closed, he brushed my hand away, staring at my empty hand. I froze. Grace, his assistant, leaned in and whispered softly, "Mr. Ben, you're home now." Only then did he lazily open his eyes, collapsing into my arms, burying his head into my neck and shoulder. He mumbled affectionately, "Honey." The strange feeling that had suddenly risen within me was instantly dispelled. I turned to Grace and thanked her. "Thanks for bringing him back." "I'm Mr. Ben's assistant, it's my job," she replied with an embarrassed smile. "By the way, Spring, I just started working here. The previous assistant left in quite a rush, so I didn't get a chance to learn all of Mr. Ben's habits. Could I add you on WhatsApp? I might need to ask you some questions from time to time." With her hands pressed together in a pleading gesture, her sincerity was hard to refuse. I nodded and exchanged contact information with her. I helped Ben clean up a bit and changed him into his pajamas. The next morning, just as I finished making breakfast, he woke up and hugged me from behind. "Honey, you're the best," he whispered. Feeling shy, I gently pushed him away. "Why did you drink so much last night?" Ben sat down calmly and said, "Grace can't handle alcohol, so she had to cover for me." For a moment, my stirring hand paused, and a thought crossed my mind: if she can't drink, why take her to a business dinner? But in the end, I didn't ask. I never interfered with his work, and I trusted him. I didn't want my small bout of jealousy to lead to questioning him. Grace added me on WhatsApp and occasionally contacted me with questions like how many sugar cubes Ben puts in his coffee, or if there were any foods he avoids. They were very normal queries, making me feel that my suspicions that day were unfounded. This led me to feel a bit guilty, so I answered her questions sincerely. Until something happened on my birthday that made me sense that Ben's feelings toward Grace might not be so ordinary. That night, he came home early. As I blew out the candles, he sat across from me, looking a bit absent-minded. He kept glancing down at his phone from time to time. After I finished making my wish, he was staring intently at his phone as if faced with a huge problem. I couldn't help but ask, "Ben, what's wrong?" Ben abruptly stood up, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. He seemed oblivious to the noise, grabbed his jacket, and rushed out. "Spring, something came up at the office. I need to go check." "You're in such a hurry, it must be serious." "Right." I felt a wave of anxiety and tugged at his coat. "What happened? Should I come with you?" "No need." He didn't even look back as he pushed my hand away. He slammed the door shut without a single glance back at me. After he left, I stayed in the living room, worrying. I didn't want to disturb him, so I only sent a few messages asking if the issue had been resolved. The beautiful cake slowly melted as the clock ticked past 11. But he still hadn't replied. Was he really that busy? I opened WhatsApp, intending to ask Grace what had happened at the company, but accidentally clicked into her status updates. At 9 p.m., she had posted, "What a disaster. I wiped out while skiing." It was accompanied by a photo of her with a plaster cast, lying on a hospital bed. 9 p.m. was exactly when Ben had rushed out. My heart skipped a beat, and I felt a hollow sensation in my chest, like something bad was about to happen. Just then, her status updated with a new photo showing a man's sleeve. The fabric was clearly high quality, and his wrist, resting on the bed's edge, wore a black watch that matched the one on my wrist. It was a pair watch Ben and I had bought together. In her post, Grace complained playfully, "He insists on staying even though I said he didn't need to." His stubbornness didn't change even after coming back to the States. It felt like a hammer struck my head. I was dizzy and disoriented. Had they known each other since abroad? Why didn't Ben tell me anything? I opened the chat window, intending to ask Grace directly but accidentally sent her a nudge instead. She immediately replied, "Sorry, Spring. I just found out tonight was your birthday. Are you okay alone? Don't worry. I'll remind Mr. Ben to hurry back." A few minutes later, another message came through. "Spring. He won't leave." Ben didn't come home until the next morning. I sat in the living room the entire night. When Ben opened the door, he was startled. "Why are you sitting here?" I looked up, eyes bloodshot. "Where were you last night?" Ben walked over and knelt in front of me. "Didn't I tell you? There was an issue at the company. Of course. I went there." I spoke softly. "I added Grace on WhatsApp." His brow twitched, and the calm expression on his face started to crumble. The next second, he sighed, raising his hands in a gesture of surrender, trying to downplay it with a light-hearted tone. "I'm sorry, honey. I lied to you. Grace and I were college classmates. She helped me a lot while I was abroad, and now her family is still overseas. She fractured a bone last night and was alone at the hospital. I thought I should go check on her." "Then why didn't you tell me?" He gave a guilty smile. "I didn't want you to overthink it. The truth is, the only reason I overthink is because he hides things from me." "Did you hire her as your assistant because of her capabilities, or because of your old friendship?" I emphasized the last 4 words. "Of course, because of her capabilities. I have no ulterior motives. Please trust me." He didn't realize it, but when he said this, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. I knew him too well. I could spot even his smallest guilty gestures. Ben had promised me 3 times no matter what he did. As long as I was still here, I would give him 3 chances and forgive him every time. So, I chose to ignore his guilty expression, pretending to be blind. I hugged him, feeling wronged. "Last night was my birthday. You promised to celebrate it with me every year. Don't leave me like that again." Ben's face relaxed into a smile. "Understood." But he didn't keep that promise. Half a month later, he left me again. We currently live in a large apartment he bought in the city center, not far from our company. When he first returned to the States, he insisted on driving me to and from work a few times. But the traffic was unbearable. I preferred my electric scooter. 15 minutes direct. After what happened on my birthday, he seemed to want to make it up to me and volunteered to pick me up after work. I didn't refuse. We both tried carefully to mend the invisible rift between us. He kept this up for half a month. That afternoon, he told me he had a business dinner and couldn't pick me up. When I received this message, I actually felt relieved, even though it was raining and I had to wear a raincoat to ride my scooter. It was better than the awkward silence we shared in the car. His attempts to make up for things only made me uncomfortable, as if he was constantly reminding me of his betrayal. I didn't want to be reminded that he once chose someone else over me. After work, my boss suddenly called me over. He had transferred here a month ago, quite different from the previous manager's humorous and lively style. He was more reserved and calm. We had jokingly counted before. He smiled fewer than 10 times a month, with the happiest being the day the office switched the afternoon tea from coffee to milk tea. Our company didn't have a habit of overtime, so I worried he might bring bad habits from his previous job. Instead, he asked, "Has your boyfriend been picking you up after work recently?" I didn't like discussing personal matters with colleagues, let alone with my direct superior. I replied tactfully, "This doesn't affect my work performance." He nodded and then turned his phone to show me a photo. "It's just a coincidence, but I happen to be Ben's senior. I even went skiing with them." The sudden photo caught me off guard. I saw Ben and Grace, closely embraced, wearing matching ski outfits. Ben had a bright, carefree smile, the same confident look he had in his youth. The 2 of them looked unmistakably like a sweet couple. Then what am I? A joke? An overwhelming sadness washed over me, leaving me breathless. I gripped the photo tightly, my body trembling uncontrollably. Outside, the sky was dark and overcast, pressing down on me until I could barely stand. So, they had been this close behind my back, making my recent attempts to deceive myself seem utterly ridiculous. My boss, Jason, gave me a look filled with pity. They were pretty close in sophomore year. I always heard Ben had a girlfriend back home. I didn't expect it to be you. My voice was hoarse. Why tell me this? You could have pretended not to know anything. I've seen people who turn a blind eye when their friends cheat, forming an unspoken male alliance. Why couldn't he do the same? The dark eyes behind his glasses showed a hint of confusion. I warned Ben. What he's doing isn't right. When I didn't respond, he seemed a bit regretful, pressing his lips together. Maybe I shouldn't have told you. No, I appreciate it. Could you send me the photo? With a quick swipe of his finger, he sent it, adding without looking up, don't let this affect your work. As I waited for Ben to come home, I replayed our 4 years of university together, searching for any signs of his divided attention. The answer was yes, but I had never suspected it back then. I trusted him with all my heart. When Ben first went abroad, he would call me whenever he had a break, timing it perfectly with my class schedule. He could talk endlessly about even the smallest things, but at some point, our conversations started to dwindle. When he came back to visit, we'd sit face to face, struggling to keep a conversation going for even an hour. I felt a knot of anxiety then, wondering if our different experiences had driven a wedge between us, leaving us with fewer shared topics. Could we really go on like this? I voiced my concerns, but he calmly reassured me, saying, just being able to sit quietly together is the greatest happiness for me. Yet there were nights when I woke up to see him smiling at his phone. His face lit up with happiness. There was even one time when there was a shooting incident at his university. I saw the news notification while attending a morning class, and was so frightened that I slipped out to call him from the hallway. It was around 9 p.m. over there. But he didn't answer. I started imagining the worst, curling up in the corner, crying, and repeatedly dialing his number while simultaneously looking up how to quickly apply for a visa. An hour later, he finally picked up, sounding hoarse, saying he had just fallen asleep. He wasn't in any danger, and he hadn't told me because he didn't want me to worry. But after hanging up, I felt a sense of emptiness. In the beginning, he used to call me even if he got a tiny splash of oil while cooking. When did I stop being the person he shared everything with? I didn't even think about what the sound of running water in the background might have meant. Late at night, he pushed open the door. Our eyes met, and he seemed to sense something. He instinctively took a step back, and that small movement stabbed at my heart. He realized how strange his reaction was, then forced a casual smile. Why aren't you asleep yet? Who did you go to the event with today? Ben's expression turned annoyed. You're imagining things again. Am I overthinking it? Or are you guilty about something? I placed a printed photo on the table. His eyebrow twitched, and he snatched the photo. How did you get this? I wanted to laugh but couldn't. Does it matter? His first reaction was to question me, not explain. Ben rubbed his nose. It's just a group photo. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? If I took a photo hugging another guy like this in college, before I could finish, his face darkened, and he cut me off harshly. Impossible. His chest heaved violently. Just mentioning it made him this angry. Double standards at their peak. You care so much about me doing this. So why did you do it? Or were you already seeing her back then? Ben, now livid, shouted. What nonsense are you talking about? It's just a photo. Is it that serious? The shooting incident happened the day before. We were under a lot of pressure. She was comforting me, and we went skiing together. There were many people in the photo. I was just squeezed into a spot with someone I was close to. If you felt pressure, you could have talked to me. He didn't hesitate to retort. What's the point of talking to you? Could you come and see me? You're always busy. Busy with your studies. Busy with work. Busy making that little bit of money. Where do I rank in your life? Would you even care if I told you? I stared at him in shock, unable to believe these words were coming from his mouth. I thought he knew. I was working so hard for our future. I'm not like him. I don't have any fallback options. I had to push forward without stopping. I was always the first to arrive at the library and the last to leave. Every bit of my spare time was spent working part-time jobs. I needed to repay the $80,000 his father lent my family so I could stand beside him with dignity. Last year, I solemnly handed him the money. He accepted it, and I thought he understood that I was rebuilding my self-respect. Ben was stunned when he saw my tears, showing deep regret. I'm sorry. I pushed away his hand that reached for me. It felt like my heart was being squeezed by a fist. suffocating me. Just as the tense atmosphere in the living room was about to solidify, his phone rang. He hesitated and gave me a glance before stepping away to answer the call. I heard Grace's voice on the other end. My leg hurt so much. Ben's back froze for a moment. Then I heard him respond. Wait for me. He couldn't leave. I clutched my chest weakly and said, Ben, I'm not feeling well. If he had just turned to look at me, he would have seen how pale my face was. But he didn't. He stormed out without even grabbing an umbrella. We need to cool off. As soon as the door slammed shut, I collapsed onto the floor, racked with pain. My vision darkened. I felt death approaching, a sharp sense of crisis overwhelming me. I can't die here. I had clawed my way out of the quagmire of my family's problems. I had a good degree, a job I loved. I couldn't die here. Crawled over, grabbed my phone, and dialed emergency services. After stumbling through giving my address, I finally got confirmation. Tears streamed down my face as I lay on the ground. Dialing Ben's number. Please pick up. You said you would never leave me. I'm scared of being alone in the hospital. Each ring of pain echoed in my chest. But he never answered. Eventually, I gave up. Years of poor nutrition in high school, combined with the immense pressure of my studies. I fainted during an important exam. When I woke up in the hospital, my mom was there. But instead of showing concern, she scolded me for not having done the laundry for days. Stop pretending to be dead just to slack off. And when she heard about the medical bills, she sneaked out when the doctor wasn't looking. It was Ben who ended up covering all my medical expenses. He grumbled while placing that day's exam papers on my hospital bed. With me around, you don't need to worry about anything. Honestly, your parents are the worst. Even when you're sick, they made me bring you test papers. Are you made of adrenaline or something? Pushing yourself this hard? Here, drink this chicken soup the housekeeper made. It's packed with nutrients. And if you don't finish it, I'll be mad at you. He brought me 3 meals a day, practically turning the hospital into his second home. By the time I was discharged, I'd gained 5 pounds. Ben was very pleased, pinching my cheek and saying, my late-night study on the pig rearing guide didn't go to waste. Moved. Promised him, Ben, if you ever get hospitalized, I'll bring you food every day too. He teased me. Don't jinx me. I was so grateful for Ben's care, knowing his dad wanted him to take the IELTS. He kept procrastinating and refused to study, so I made time to help him prepare. In March, we took the test together. I scored an 8, and he got a 7, exceeding his father's expectations. He was so excited that he picked me up and spun me around. You're my lucky charm. Being suddenly lifted, I clung to him, terrified. Ben blushed but kept holding me, trembling as well. We stood there under the tree, embracing for 5 minutes without saying a word, and it didn't feel awkward at all. That beautiful moment is still vivid in my mind. Tears streamed down my face, and I felt a cool touch wiping them away. When I opened my eyes, I was already back in the hospital. Ben's eyes were red. I'm sorry, Spring. I didn't realize you were really feeling unwell. I responded blankly. I told you. I said I wasn't feeling well. His tears fell immediately as he kept apologizing. After the doctors explained that my collapse was due to extreme emotional stress, Ben stayed with me at the hospital for a week, even moving his work into my room. I neither welcomed nor rejected his presence. Ignoring him completely, he seemed oblivious, continuing his efforts, persistently trying to comfort me. Even the nurses whispered to me, your boyfriend treats you so well. The day before I was discharged, Ben sat on the couch, suddenly pushing aside a mountain of documents in frustration. Ugh, I don't want to work anymore. In that moment, I heard echoes of a younger Ben throwing his exam papers aside, whining, Spring, I don't want to do practice questions anymore. My heart skipped a beat. Without thinking, I called his name. Ben. Ben, overwhelmed with excitement, rushed to my bedside. You're talking to me. He hugged me, repeatedly apologizing. I was so wrong. I shouldn't have kept things from you. I swear there's nothing between me and Grace. I don't like her. I only love you. I've already fired her and promise I'll never have any contact with her again. I shouldn't have doubted your love for me. How could I not know that you love me the most? Please forgive me. As he spoke, he began to cry. The way he looked at me, filled with love, wasn't fake. But can a person really love two people at the same time? When he hugged her as intimately as in the photos, did he truly feel nothing? I let him hold me tightly, whispering in his ear. This is the second time. What second time? He asked. Nothing, I said. I forgive you. Ben held my face, his eyes shimmering with light. Spring, I just want to be with you. No one is more important than you. The day after I was discharged, he proposed to me. I accepted. Strangely, when I took the ring, along with happiness, I also felt a flicker of doubt. Was his proposal sincere? Or was it driven by guilt and a need to make amends? When Grace showed up at our wedding, I realized that guilt doesn't last forever. I tore off my veil and walked towards Ben, step by step. What's going on? I asked. Ben replied. She said she wanted to see our wedding, so I sent her an invitation. The corners of Ben's mouth twitched, but he chose to stand between me and Grace, blocking my view of her. Don't be angry, Spring. She's just joking. Let's continue the wedding. Okay. How did Grace know about our wedding? Clearly, Ben had still been in contact with her behind my back. I didn't feel sad. Instead, I felt a sense of relief and liberation that it was finally over. I placed the veil I had carefully selected from 10 different bridal stores into Ben's hands and smiled. Go ahead. I'll leave the venue to you too. A flash of triumph crossed Grace's eyes, but she quickly masked it with tears, as if I had bullied her. Sister Spring, she said pitifully. Mr. Ben was worried the wedding might be dull, so I thought I'd bring some of our old photos to lighten the mood. She added tearfully, I didn't know it would upset you so much. Ben turned pale. Grace isn't like that. Don't joke about something as important as our wedding. I glared at him without a shred of mercy. Use your brain for once. Ben, if I had shown intimate photos with another guy at our wedding and brushed it off as a joke, would you accept it? People who do that are either brainless or shameless. And you? Taking advantage of their momentary distraction, I shoved past Ben and grabbed onto Grace's hair. Brainless and shameless. Do you have any idea how much effort I put into planning this wedding? You wretch. Grace let out a piercing scream as I slapped her hard across the face. Ben immediately pulled us apart, looking shocked. Spring, what are you doing? To everyone who knows me, I'm usually mild-tempered, almost to the point of being a pushover. I've never hit anyone, never even raised my voice. But that's only because no one had ever crossed my bottom line. I'm patient. I can tolerate a lot. They simply weren't worth my time. But my heart is small, and there's only room for a few people. Now, there's one less. I sneered. You're a disgrace too. With everyone staring at me in disbelief, I walked up to the big screen, took off the engagement ring, and spoke with a smile. Wish me luck. As of today, I'm single again because my ex-fiancé hooked up with his secretary and ruined my wedding. These two are a perfect match. Let's all wish them the best. I began clapping, and only a few scattered applause followed. From my tearful friends, I smiled at them, then casually tossed the ring aside and lifted my gown to walk toward the exit. Spring. Ben frantically bent down to pick up the ring, but I didn't look back. Each step I took was firm and resolute. When I got into the taxi, the driver glanced at me through the rearview mirror and handed me a pack of tissues. Here, sweetheart, wipe your tears. He wasn't worth it. It was only then that I realized I was crying. I wiped my tears and said, these are tears of joy. 4 years ago, I broke free bit by bit from the toxic grip of my past. Since then, the old me no longer existed, only Spring. And today, I've walked away from yet another toxic relationship. The process wasn't perfect, but the outcome was worth it. When Ben came home, I was packing the last of my belongings. Nearly everything in the apartment was bought by him, so I only took my clothes. He grabbed my suitcase, looking both confused and angry. Where are you going? You've already made a scene at the wedding, and now you're just going to run away. I looked at him calmly. Let go. Where can you go? This is your home. Don't worry about it. I've already rented a place. He widened his eyes. When did you do that? The day after my birthday. Without hesitation. After you left me that night to be with Grace at the hospital. I took the morning off. found a place, signed the lease by noon, and was back at work in the afternoon. I hadn't planned on telling him. Perhaps deep down, I knew this day would come. Ben was stunned, looking hurt and confused. Why? I glanced around the apartment where we had lived together for 3 years. I knew every corner intimately. The cozy living room, the spotless kitchen, the soft carpet. They were filled with my love and our memories. But this place no longer belonged to me. Ben's face turned pale, and he punched the wall in helpless anger. Just because of a joke. You're leaving me. The moment you instinctively protected her. That was your last chance. He didn't understand what I meant. He'd always loved making jokes, especially to lighten the mood. This time, he'd gone too far. Fine. If you don't want to see her again, I'll block her. Okay. Desperately, he pulled out his phone and showed me his chat with Grace, deleting everything while I watched. Just before he entered the apartment, they were still texting. Realizing the mess he was in, he gritted his teeth and blocked her in front of me, handing me his phone as if it were proof of his sincerity. Look, I deleted it all. I didn't take the phone, just shook my head. It's none of my business anymore. Ben, maybe you didn't understand what I said at that ridiculous wedding. Let me make it clear. We're done. Thankfully, we never made it official. The last sentence hit him like a punch. His eyes reddened, and he clung to my suitcase, refusing to let go. Spring, isn't this our home? Are you really going to leave me here alone? We survived 4 years of long distance during college. We promised we'd always be together. I didn't want to argue any longer. I pried his hands off my suitcase, accidentally pulling off his wristwatch. It fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. Be a decent person. Ben, stop making me remind you. You and Grace have been involved for a long time. I've already been made a fool once. I don't hate you, but I have no expectations left for you. I don't know when you'll leave me behind again or side with her like I'm the common enemy. But the worst part? Even imagining you doing this in the future doesn't make me feel the slightest bit sad. I curled my lips into a sarcastic smile. What do you think that means? He understood instantly. It meant I no longer loved him. We were truly over. He released my hand. His eyes filled with desperation. I spent half a day cleaning up my new apartment. The next morning, I returned to work, looking refreshed. When I handed a report to Jason, his eyes flicked to my bare ring finger before quickly looking away. He spoke slowly. There's an opportunity for an overseas assignment next month. Our department has 2 slots, and I've recommended you. Take some time to think it over. An overseas assignment? I was taken aback by the sudden news. When did you decide to recommend me? Just last week, he said with a rare, almost fatherly smile. Close the door on your way out. And thanks for all your hard work. As I shut the door behind me, it felt surreal. Jason had never smiled at me before. When he noticed my missing ring, he hadn't said a word, just frowned slightly, as if thinking, what a waste of a good person. From that day on, he never smiled again. We jokingly called him the stone face behind his back. In my now stable life, Ben was the only lingering nuisance. He called me every day. I blocked number after number, but he wouldn't give up. When he couldn't reach me, he resorted to sending long, sentimental messages. I ignored them until, unable to restrain himself, he showed up outside my office with a massive bouquet, blocking my path. With a forced smile, he extended his hand. Spring, the watch has been repaired. This watch was the cheapest thing Ben owned, but it was the most expensive birthday gift I could afford during my college years. He wore it for 7 years. Once, a friend teased him about wearing such a cheap watch, and he had turned serious, saying, "This is the most precious thing I have." That friend never dared joke about it again. But he had worn that same watch while spending an entire night comforting Grace. I wondered if he had checked the time that night, thinking of me waiting alone. I scoffed. He means nothing to me anymore. And neither do you. I hopped on my electric scooter, leaving him standing there. Ben had always lived a charmed life, born with a silver spoon in his mouth. His first real setbacks were all because of me. I didn't expect him to be so persistent. He even enlisted outside help. When I received a text from Grace, I couldn't help but laugh at the audacity. Where do they get the nerve? I decided to meet with her. curious to see what game they were playing. The moment she saw me, Grace hurried over, looking pitiful. Ben asked me to explain our situation. Spring, there's really nothing between us. He only helped me get into the company because we were classmates. And I've already resigned. I know my joke at the wedding was too much. I'm sorry. If you're willing to forgive me and Ben, I'll do whatever you ask. She even started sobbing, tears streaming down her face. Most men would probably be moved by her tears. But not me. Really? Even kneeling? I asked with a cold smile. Grace froze. After a long, uncomfortable silence, she forced herself to say, "If it means you'll forgive Ben, then yes, I will." "Enough." Spring. Came Ben's voice from the phone Grace had placed on the table. The moment I saw Grace's smug expression, I realized they were trying to manipulate me. I crossed my arms, unimpressed. "He said he'd do anything, didn't he?" I made one simple request. "And you're already upset? If there's no sincerity, why even bother meeting with me?" Grace sneered but quickly dropped to her knees. "Stop fighting because of me." "Fine. I'll kneel." Then she hung up the call. "You really think you've won?" I asked, mocking her. "Ben still can't let go of you." Grace's face lit up with a satisfied smile. "Why wouldn't he? You're just jealous." "Jealous? Why would I compete over a man I don't even want?" Her face twisted with anger. "Sour grapes. Huh, you can't have him. So you act like you don't want him." I chuckled. "If Ben cares about you so much, why did he force you to leave the company?" For a split second, her confident demeanor cracked. "Oh, didn't he tell you? He knows I've always loved fashion design. So he's helping me set up my own studio." My stomach sank. No wonder she was so smug. I had walked right into their trap. Her voice was dripping with condescension. "You didn't seriously think we were just friends, did you? Do you know what we were doing the night you called? Right when your parents showed up demanding money and even tried to kidnap you." I stood there, my heart hardening even further. Every word she spoke confirmed what I already knew. Ben and I were done. And this time, there was no turning back. "You should be grateful to me. If it weren't for how happy I made Ben, he wouldn't have felt guilty enough to rush back and save you right after our ski trip," Grace said with a sneer. "He even pitied you, saying, 'Oh, poor Spring. Even her family doesn't care about her.'" It was utterly disgusting. That happened back in my junior year of college. After that incident, I made a decision. I took the household registration booklet and changed the name that had brought me nothing but bad luck for 21 years. I became Spring. Spring. Like the warmth of spring. I wanted to be the light in my own life. Ben was there with me, supporting me every step of the way. Or so I thought. Now, I realized that his so-called unconditional support was just a mask to cover up his guilt for betraying me. I clenched my fists, suppressing the nausea rising in my throat. "You two are revolting." Grace smirked. "And what right do you have to say that? Ben was overseas for years. But he still came back for you. Did you ever go see him? Did you even know he failed his exams? Faced racial discrimination? Got robbed? Every single time. I was the one by his side. What did you do? You wouldn't even buy a plane ticket. You just enjoyed the love he gave you." I looked over to where Ben was sitting, slumped in a corner, unsure how much he had overheard. "Is that how you see it too?" I asked, my voice cold. Grace followed my gaze, her face turning pale. Ben staggered over, trembling, as if he wanted to explain but couldn't find the words. I was genuinely baffled. "I just enjoyed your love? Is that all I ever did for you? Ben, did I really never do anything for you?" When he struggled with his studies, I stayed up all night watching online courses, organizing notes, and breaking everything down step by step for him. When he faced racism and I couldn't be there, I spent a week's worth of free time researching and writing a detailed guide on how to handle those situations. He was stuck on his thesis, and I revised every bit of it. Framework, terminology, the works. And yet, in his eyes, all I did was enjoy his love. I stared at him as if he were a stranger. "Ben, you're disgusting. How do you even deserve anything?" I didn't have a visa, had never been on a plane. The places he went were just pictures in books to me. When we started our long-distance relationship, I was full of anxiety. He told me, "No distance can lessen my love for you." Ben will always love spring. By his third year abroad, those promises were worthless. I guess promises only mean something when there's still love behind them. Once the love is gone, the promises are empty words. I let out a bitter laugh. You and Grace are perfect for each other. Be together. Why drag me into this mess? If you just told me you couldn't handle long distance anymore, that you didn't love me, that you wanted to break up, do you think I'd have clung to you? You really overestimate your importance and underestimate me. If you just said you couldn't resist sleeping with that trash, I would have left without a word. I turned on my heel and walked away. Staying any longer would have driven me to the brink. That same night, I told Jason I'd take the overseas assignment. It was a chance for growth, and I desperately needed to get away from the polluted air Ben and Grace had tainted. As I was busy with my visa application, a friend who had attended the wedding called to tell me Ben and Grace were having a major fallout. Ben was demanding she pay back the $1 million he invested in her studio, even threatening to sue her. But where was Grace going to find that kind of money? She cried, threw a fit, and even threatened to hurt herself. It didn't make sense. Her family was wealthy enough to send her abroad. My friend then explained that her ex-boyfriend had funded her studies. He was loaded and didn't care about the money. But just before their wedding, he found out Grace had been secretly dating Ben during college and cut off all financial support, leaving her stranded. That's when she came crawling back to Ben. My friend pitted Ben, saying he'd been fooled. I scoffed. What is he? A clueless toddler? If anyone's to blame, Grace deserves 30 lashes. But Ben needs 70. Stop acting like he's some innocent, pure-hearted soul. I told my friend, thanks for the update, but I don't care anymore. Spare me the details. Few days later, I heard that Ben actually did sue Grace. She couldn't pay him back and got blacklisted for defaulting on her debts. Meanwhile, my visa finally came through. Just before I left the country, one of Ben's friends called me in a panic. Spring, please come to the hospital. Ben was admitted for alcohol poisoning. Apparently, he had been drinking himself to oblivion ever since our breakup. I hung up, muttering to myself, don't believe everything you hear. The very next day, Ben called me from his friend's phone, sounding completely sober. Spring, I'm in the hospital. Didn't you promise you'd bring me homemade meals every day? I want to eat the porridge you used to make. Any kind. Whatever you cook. I love it. When will you come see me? I miss you so much. I thought I'd open my eyes and see you right here. Ben's voice came through soft and pleading, filled with a familiar affection that used to tug at my heart. But I wasn't the same person anymore. I cut him off. Stop with the act, Ben. Old promises don't hold up anymore. There was a heavy pause before he spoke again, his voice breaking. So you're really never going to forgive me, are you? You shattered my idea of love. I sighed. And besides, I'm leaving. The boarding announcement echoed in the background. I could hear a commotion on Ben's end, his breaths coming in quick. Panic bursts. Spring, where are you going? I smirked. Even a small-town girl like me is heading abroad. With that, I hung up, pulled out the SIM card, and boarded the plane, stepping into the next chapter of my life. The first few weeks overseas were a blur of adjusting to a new environment and immersing myself in work. Once I settled into a steady routine, I reconnected with colleagues back home, catching up on office gossip. One day, a coworker sent me a message. Guess what? Supervisor Clark got into a fight during lunch. I was taken aback. Who? Jason. A fight. I couldn't picture it. Peyton was always the epitome of professionalism, showing up in a perfectly pressed suit and neatly styled hair. When faced with difficult situations, he would just adjust his black-rimmed glasses and furrow his brows slightly, more like a calm professor than a hot-headed brawler. The idea of him getting into a fistfight seemed absurd. My coworker took a deep breath before dropping the bombshell. It was with your ex-boyfriend. I froze. Wait, they know each other. Apparently, your ex called him a homewrecker, and our supervisor shot back with, you don't deserve her. There was a pause, followed by a hint of excitement in my coworker's voice. Was he talking about you? I laughed it off. You're crazy. That doesn't make any sense. But even as I dismissed it, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Late that night, lying in bed, I found myself replaying the idea of Jason standing up to Ben on my behalf. The thought sent a shiver down my spine. But I brushed it off as him simply disliking Ben. After all, everyone found him insufferable. I ended up staying with the overseas branch for 2 years. On the same day I received news of my promotion, I also got a notice to return home. Back in the city, I was finally given my own office. My mom wasted no time lounging on the plush leather sofa, laying out grand plans for my future. In 3 years, you'll be a general manager. In 5, you'll be a CEO and marry some tall, rich, and handsome guy. Her ambitious dreams were cut short by a knock at the door. Clearing my throat, I switched to my professional tone. Come in. The new department manager walked in, smiling. A rare sight. Long time no see. Today's treat is milk tea for the afternoon. 6 years after graduating, I finally bought my own 2-bedroom apartment. As I stepped out of the sales office, I noticed a tiny kitten huddled at the door. Her tail curled up, meowing desperately. She couldn't have been more than 2 months old. Her light yellow fur matted and wet, clinging to her frail little body. She looked so fragile. It broke my heart. I used tissues to dry her off and waited with her for 2 hours. But her mother never came. I crouched down and reached out a hand. Do you want to come home with me? In that moment, something magical happened. She meowed softly, crawling toward me with her tiny tail held high. Her voice thin but determined. She flopped down on my shoes, pawing at my shoelaces, her tiny head bobbing with curiosity. My heart melted. I wrapped her in my jacket, cradling her close, and gently stroked her damp little nose. No, Mom. No, Dad. Huh. Well, neither do I. Let's be each other's family from now on.